Okay, my name is Hayden. First, can I get a show of hands for who here listens to music? Okay, just about everyone. Well, does anyone listen to metal? Sweet. Well, that's today's topic. Metal is a style of music that incorporates fast tempos, guitar shredding, and the prominence of screamed vocals. And I don't think that metal bands receive the respect that they deserve for how much talent they put into their music. They aren't just thrashing around. It's actually it takes a lot of effort for what they do. So my proposition is that metal is the most difficult style of music to play. This is because the skill needed to play double bass on the drums, the tempo which the other members of the band must keep up with, and the difficulties associated with screamed vocals. So my first claim, the skill that's needed to play a double bass, it's really difficult to play one. But first off, what's a double bass? So on the drum set, you could either have two kick drums or one kick drum with a double pedal. This allows for a much faster beat. It raises the tempo a lot. A double bass pedal would be normally used in metal or subgenres of metal or jazz. It takes a lot longer to learn how to play it on the double bass just because muscle memory and finding that rhythm. And this ties in with my second claim that the tempo of metal is much faster than other styles of music, which makes it a little bit harder than other styles. So the drummer has to set a really fast tempo. The bassist has to keep up with that tempo. This happens a lot in metal and jazz. There's a lot of tempo changes and sometimes key changes that the guitarist and the bassist have to set up. With the speed of the tempo, the guitarist has to keep up with that and make, along with guitar solos, have to be fast. And it's a lot of progressions, but you might say that it's not very hard to do, but at the speed that they're doing it, I would say it is hard. So after the first two claims, you would think you should understand that metal is a pretty difficult type of music to play. But what makes it any harder to play than jazz, that also incorporates tempo changes, key changes, and fast beats? This is where I'll show my third claim, which is scream vocals. What is screaming? Screaming is a vocal technique used where the voice is pushed to the limit by pushing air out the diaphragm, and it causes a really harsh sounding vocal. It's a lot harder than singing just because of the dangers that it has for your throat. If you don't do it correctly, you could actually really damage your throat. It takes a lot more of your diaphragm to push out that scream. It's got enormous stress on your diaphragm while screaming, yeah. It takes a long time for the vocalist's voice to adapt to that stress, and it can really hurt the person's voice. So, in conclusion, metal is the most difficult style of music to play because of the skill required to play a double bass drum and keep that tempo really fast. The tempo changes and speeds at which the other instruments must play, and which the key changer between jazz and metal, that screamed vocals are harder to produce. After this speech, I hope you'll agree with me that metal is the most difficult type of music to play, and that the musicians who do play this music deserve a lot of credit. Thanks. That's it.
4:35. Sorry, 4:45.
All right, Hayden, the organizational stuff you've got down pretty well. I thought that you took a subject that sounds like it's going to be a value claim. You found a way to present it as a claim of fact. I thought there was a good layout of the structure internally. You signpost that structure really well. What you don't do is really provide us much grounds for those points and prove that those claims are true. You went into this description of the double bass, for instance, and you make all these inferences about how difficult it is to learn, but I don't have any proof that it's any more difficult to learn than anything else, except your say-so. You make a mention of muscle memory, and I have a vague idea of what you're talking about there, but I would assume that it's not any more complicated than learning to play a guitar, where you have to develop, memory for your hands on the chords that you're playing or the notes that you're playing, or like if you were learning to type, the same sort of thing. You just have to develop muscle memory. Why is this any more difficult? I don't have any authorities that say it's more difficult. You don't give me an example. You don't even give me a piece of testimony from somebody who does this kind of drumming, who talks about how it kicks their butt on a regular basis trying to keep up with the music. That would be something that would at least advance the claim. The same thing is true about the scream vocals. I think you are probably accurate on some of this, but again, that's just my opinion. I don't have any grounds for believing it, just as you don't provide any grounds for believing it, except what we believe might already exist. You're relying on our pre-existing knowledge of what screaming might do to our voices without giving us illustrations of people who maybe do vocals like that and are successful, or people who've hurt their voices, or even one of those vocalists who talks about how long it took them to develop those skills, be careful about it, that sort of thing. It sounds like a preliminary argument. This sounds like an argument that you said, I think this is what I'm going to say and what I want to argue about, without going out and doing any research on it to back it up. And I think that that's the problem with the presentation. It's not organizational. It's not a problem with the claim. It's just they're very limited grounds. All your grounds are presuppositions. All right, thank you.